1. Hey, everybody. So this is the lecture on Chapter 7, Unit 2, and this is on weight management. So let me share my screen and let me clear my throat. And let's get started with weight management. Okay, so weight management, what are our objectives? So we're going to discuss genetic and environmental causes of obesity. We're going to talk about why weight loss advice doesn't apply equally to all overweight people. There's not a cookie cutter resolution. We're going to talk about the dangers of over-the-counter weight loss products, anything that's like get skinny quick. We're going to talk about risks and benefits, if any, of drugs and surgery that are used to treat obesity. We'll outline strategies that are reasonable and attainable for achieving and maintaining a healthy body weight. Summarize strategies for gaining weight. Not the biggest problem in the world, but still some people have that problem. And we're going to discuss fad diets, how to evaluate these diets based on sound nutritional advice. Okay, so overview. It is very unusual, this is true, to find somebody who can say, yep, I'm very happy with my body weight. I am. Usually it's about appearance and it's not rooted in health, which is not the best way to look at it. But you know, weight is related to physical health. Overweight and underweight are both a problem with energy imbalance. In other words, how much are you taking in and how much are you expending? So genetics are a huge factor here. So your genes influence the way you eat, like eating behaviors, your body composition, energy storage and expenditure, lipoprotein lipase, LPL. So that's an enzyme that we all have that promotes fat storage in fat and muscle cells. And some people just have high levels of it and they are efficient at storing fat. Then there's something called leptin. So leptin is a hormone that is produced by lipid cells, fat cells, and it's directed by something called the obesity gene. Yes, there is a gene. Being overweight, being obese, I should say, does run in families. So the more body weight that you gain, the more the stimulation occurs to produce more leptin. So leptin is supposed to suppress the appetite and increase energy expenditure. Fat loss decreases leptin production, which increases your appetite and decreases energy expenditure. Then there's something called ghrelin. That's a protein. And it's secreted usually by the stomach cells. And that actually helps with balancing energy by stimulating your appetite when your body is in need of nutrients and energy. And it is the most powerful protein that we have that triggers our hunger, our desire to want to eat, ghrelin. Fat cell development. Fat cells are strange. So excess energy can be stored in fat cells, in adipose tissue, which is fat tissue, fatty tissue. The number of fat cells increases the most rapidly in your body during late childhood and early puberty. So, I mean, now with precocious puberty, it can start anywhere from 10 years of age up to 14, 15, even 16 years of age. And it's a fact that obese people have more fat cells than lean people. And the fat cells themselves are actually physiologically larger for people that are obese. Okay, so fat cells can actually increase their size by 20 times. 20 times, that's a lot. And they can increase their number by several thousand times. So in other words, the more fat you hold on to, the more fat you can hold on to. Does that make sense? They get larger and larger. There's a theory called set point theory that proposes body weight is physiologically regulated. So your body should adapt to its preferred weight. But, you know, set point theory does answer some questions about biology of energy imbalance, but it doesn't help with the energy, with the obesity epidemic. So this is where we have to say, you know, how much of this is environmental? Because this country is obese, sadly. There are lots of environmental factors that contribute to obesity. Availability of high calorie foods, fast food restaurants, McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell, list goes on and on. Portion sizes. Portion sizes in this country are huge, and they have increased markedly over the past several decades. That's the truth. The amount that we eat in one sitting is unthinkable to people in almost every other country. And there's a very readily available selection of energy dense foods. In other words, foods that have a lot of calories, right? Some of the environmental stimuli have to do with learned behavior. I'll give you an example. I'm Italian, and culturally speaking, Italians, everything happens in the kitchen. It's all around food. Eat, eat, eat. You got to eat. You got to eat. We eat when we're happy. We eat when we're sad. It's kind of crazy. But the feeling of hunger, actually, when you're hungry, is internally driven, pre-programmed by your heredity. And your appropriate eating behavior is a response to that drive. So how quickly after you eat do you feel satisfied? So the feeling of satiety, that's the feeling of satisfaction, like, oh, I'm full, can't eat another bite. When you feel that way, suppresses your hunger, your appetite. But your appetite can actually lead you to either ignore it or over respond to it. So that's a learned behavior. In other words, okay, I may not be hungry, but I want something. I need to eat something. And that could be for psychological reasons, lots of different reasons. I say this all the time, you got to sweat, So physical activity is a necessary component of nutritional health. If you are sedentary, if you do not move around, if you don't break a sweat ever, that is as bad as smoking, right? It's as bad as so many other things because you're not expending the energy that you're taking in, and you're going to gain weight. And a lot of it has to do with screen time. Even children in this country are obese. Your environment can sometimes discourage physical activity. Where are the stairs? Way back there in the dark. Well, if they're isolated and not safe, you're not going to use the stairs, you're going to use the elevator. Where can you walk? So roadways usually are not the best for outdoor commuters. And then we talk about socioeconomically depressed areas. So low income areas, they usually lack access to supermarkets, but what you will find is maybe a bodega or a 7-Eleven, a convenience store. And that's a problem because you're not going to have the selection there that you would have, say, in a supermarket. And then a lot of people don't drive. Lack of transportation is an issue. So when we talk about obesity treatment, who should lose weight? Millions of people in this country are always trying to lose weight, and not very many are successful. Some are successful for the short term, but then for the long term, for permanent weight loss, not so much. And again, factors influencing the appropriateness of weight loss. So how overweight are you? How old are you? What's your general state of health without factoring in the obesity or the weight? And then what are your genetics? Because all of those things are factors that affect. There are so many gimmicks and schemes, over-the-counter weight loss products. They're not good. They're not successful. Some of them are dangerous, right? There used to be something called fen-phen. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that. People were having heart attacks using it. So they were very, very dangerous. Ephedrine is an herb. You can find it in Sudafed. You hear the name kind of sounds the same. It's a kind of a stimulant, right? So the FDA actually banned the sale of it. That was one of the ingredients in fen-phen back in the day. And then there's so many other gimmicks. Certain types of baths or rubs. Wrap yourself in saran wrap. Use this cream, sauna, heat, cold. They don't work. They don't break up fat, and they don't speed up or increase your metabolic rate. They don't work. They take your money. And the health benefits that are gained by losing weight if you are overweight or obese may make the risks worth taking when we're talking about more aggressive treatments to lose weight. Again, every person is different. So every individual circumstance is different. So obesity drugs, and now we're talking about things like prescription drugs, and they can be effective, but they also don't work alone. They have to be used with a comprehensive weight loss program, with some exercise, a healthy diet, long-term treatment. So if it took you 10 years to gain the weight, you're not going to lose it in a week. And then remember, all medications pose risks. So any medication for weight loss, even prescription meds, can be risky when they're used for the long term. This is a table of aggressive types of treatments for obesity. First, we talk about certain injections, medications that people can take, and the list is very long. The one that makes me laugh is the fourth one down, and that's called Orlistat. Trade name is also Xenical. What it does is it increases your pancreatic production of lipase, and lipase is a pancreatic enzyme that works with metabolizing fats that you eat. And so basically what happens is anytime you eat fatty food, you get diarrhea, anal leakage. You heard me right, anal leakage. I mean, you know, ugh. And then there are drugs like phentermine. That is a very commonly used drug that is a stimulant. It's, believe it or not, kind of a form of amphetamine. And you guys all have heard of methamphetamine. So it's a type of stimulant so you don't feel hungry. But that's also dangerous. We don't know the effects that it can have on people. We do know it can cause heart attacks because, you can overstimulate someone's nervous system. So that there's dangers. And then there are surgeries, gastric bypass or gastric banding. So with both of them, basically, we're going in surgically and we're making your stomach capacity smaller. So either we're doing it by actually bypassing a portion of your stomach or by banding off a portion of your stomach. So this way you're eating tiny little bits, you can't eat as much, and you will lose weight. There are also laparoscopic weight loss surgeries. Anything laparoscopic is always going to be less invasive than a regular open surgery. In other words, if I cut you open with a scalpel, that's an open procedure. If I make little puncture wounds, say in your abdomen, and put a laparoscope and some surgical tools in there, you only have those little puncture wounds, so your recovery time is much shorter and easier than with an open procedure, and that applies to any surgery. So, successful weight loss strategies are based on small changes. In other words, baby steps. You can't expect to do, work a miracle. If it took you 10 years to gain the weight, it's not going to be lost in a week. Slow and steady is what wins the race here. Moderate losses, reasonable goals. Even a modest amount of weight loss when you are obese or even moderately overweight can help your blood sugar and your blood triglycerides, which fat in your blood, go down. And when you lose weight, your blood pressure comes down, and your HDL, which is your good cholesterol, and your LDL, which is your bad cholesterol, will both be affected in a positive way. HDL higher is better, LDL lower is better. Okay? You need to eat relatively healthful. So in other words, there's got to be a realistic amount of intake of kcalories. That's your energy intake. Nutritionally adequate, but not excessive. And reductions really should depend on your BMI. Like I said, there's going to be a different plan for every person. When we talk about weight loss, 1 to 1.5 pounds a week, people go, that's not enough. It's enough because you'll keep it off. You have to have a deficit in the amount of kcalories that you take in order to lose 1 pound. But then the deficit required to lose more weight will increase as you lose more weight. Okay. Metabolism, if your metabolism is slower, if you're not expending enough energy during physical activity, those are problems, right? So you need to be slow and steady. Like, think of it as a gradual uptick, right? So in other words, I'm going to increase my exercise, my physical activity. I'm decreasing the amount of kcalories that I take in, but it's not, it's got to be slow and steady. This is a healthful eating plan, but it's based on kcalorie diets. So different people, different BMIs will require a different nutritional intake. So we've got 1,200, 14, 16, and 1,800 calorie diets. And generally speaking, it's giving you the recommendations. So for somebody, say, with a 1,600 calorie a day diet, 1.5 cups of fruit, 2 cups of vegetables, about 5 ounces of grains, about 3 cups of milk or milk products, right, like yogurt, and then oils should not exceed about 5 teaspoons, and it should be olive oil. That's the heart healthy. It's difficult to achieve nutritional adequacy, in other words, to get all that your body needs on less than 1,200 calories a day. You have to take in that much to get the amount of vitamins and minerals and lipids and proteins and carbohydrates that you need just for your body to function. When you're choosing carbs, whole grains, fiber-rich vegetables, good fats, not the trans fats, unsaturated are the ones that you want, and portion size. You don't need a plate this big, right? Portion size, reasonable portion sizes. And foods that are low in energy density, in other words, calories, maintain satiety. In other words, you'll feel full, but they're reducing how much you're taking in calories. Fruits, vegetables. Be careful with broth-based soups. They usually have a lot of sodium, and that is very bad for you as well. But, you know, fruits and vegetables, awesome. You want to limit the intake of sugars that are added and alcohol, because alcohol is just sugar. Small, frequent meals. I can't stress this enough. Small, frequent meals is the key to life and the key to an increased metabolic rate. If you sit down, you're making a fire, you want to build a fire, and you just get one big log, boom, you throw it on the fire first thing in the morning, and then you don't go back to that fire again until 4 or 5 hours later at lunchtime. Do you think you're going to have a fire? No, it's going to have burned itself out. So, and then you wait another 5, 6 hours to have dinner. 3 large meals a day are not the way to eat. They're just not. Small, frequent meals, in other words, eating something every few hours, 2 to 3 hours, is the way to do it. Because when you're building a fire, you're taking little bits of wood and kindling, and you're slowly adding it to them every so often, maybe every hour or 2 hours, to keep that fire burning nicely. Think of the fire as your metabolic rate. When you eat 3 big meals a day, your metabolic rate slows down. When you're constantly giving it what it needs, your metabolic rate will increase. You won't feel as tired. Right? And don't wait until you're, oh my God, I'm starving, I gotta eat, because you're more likely to eat crap. Foods with high water content also increase satiety or fullness, right? And they reduce your energy intake. So there are no calories in water. And replacing soda is an energy dense beverage, with just water, you can actually save you about 15 pounds a year. That's a lot of weight. And water also helps your GI, your digestive tract, adapt to high fiber diets, which helps you poop. Physical activity, again, you got to move, but you know, you got to have some physical activity, and you really have to sweat. So weight gain prevention, augmented weight loss, in other words, to prevent gaining any weight and to actually lose some weight, you need 2 hours and 30 minutes a week of at least moderate intensity physical activity. And I would even venture to say, even though this comes from the American College of Sports Medicine, I would venture to say that, you know, if you spread out, say 20 to 30 minutes a day, 7 days a week, that's the best way to do it, because that also will help increase your metabolic rate. Weight loss, greater weight loss, and improved weight maintenance after you lose the weight happens when you do more than 4 hours and 10 minutes a week of moderate intensity physical activity. Again, you know, there's wiggle room here because, you know, are you medically clear to do this activity? So there are lots of other caveats here, but the understanding is, if you're generally a healthy person, if you've done nothing, if you've been sedentary, to clear it with your doctor and start to increase your physical activity incrementally, a little at a time, right? That's the way to do it. Aerobic is endurance. In other words, cardiovascular activity, which can be aerobics, it can be spinning, it can cycling, swimming, those kinds of things. And muscle strengthening, which are resistance activities, that would be things like walking, lifting weights. Okay, they're beneficial, but you gotta restrict the calories that you're taking in addition to doing these things, right? It's not one or the other. It's got to be a combination of both. Reduce your caloric intake, increase your exercise and activity, right? And physical activity, so more begets more. The more that you do, your energy output from your muscles and your cardiovascular system will increase, and you'll feel better. And another happy side effect is endorphins usually will get released, and that's better than a Zoloft or a Prozac. And again, factors that influence the number of calories that you spend and that you need: your body weight, the duration of the activity, and the intensity of the activity. So these all have to be kind of custom made for you, because you are not like anybody else. Your basal metabolic rate, that's what BMR is, gets elevated in the hours after anything vigorous, right? So if you do a little vigorous activity every day, you develop more lean tissue, and lean tissue is metabolically faster acting than fatty tissue. And your appetite will be suppressed. You will not feel hungry after an aerobic workout. So there are lots of benefits to this. And then stress. Everybody has stress. We can't eliminate stress. We can manage it. Physical activity helps you manage and reduce the stress and the load of stress that you have. Punch a punching bag. There's nothing like it. Don't punch a person. They frown on that. It will curb your desire to eat if you're feeling anxious or depressed or even bored. And it increases self-esteem when you look in the mirror and go, wow, I feel good. I've got good color in my face. Look, I feel healthy, right? So there's so many benefits. Physical activity, you want to have aerobic and resistance training, both, a little of both. And then you got to do something that you like. There's nothing worse. I'm going to join a gym and I'm going to go to the gym every day. It's my New Year's resolution. Is it? Is it really? How long did that last? Usually it doesn't last very long, because you got to understand that if you've been doing nothing, you cannot go from 0 to 60 in 2 minutes, right? You're not a Ferrari Testarossa. You have to do things that you like to do and that you can commit to on a regular basis. And total energy expenditure is the biggest factor in weight loss. Again, taking in calories is a factor, but how much are you putting out? What are you burning? Moderate intensity, longer duration activities, or higher intensity, but shorter duration, right? So am I lifting more weight, but fewer reps? Or am I lifting less weight with more repetitions? Make sense? And there's no one part of the body that will give up fat before another. People say, well, I lose weight, I lose my butt. I mean, you're going to lose weight generally, right? And strengthening muscles improves tone in all those areas, right? And stretching, you should always stretch, helps with your posture, and it helps with flexibility. And for women, postmenopausal women are the highest risk group for osteoporosis. If you have muscle tone now before menopause, you are less likely to develop osteoporosis. Some people need something called behavior modification therapy, where, they'll keep a journal or a log, because, people will say, I don't eat more than anybody else. But if you start to write down when you eat, what you eat, why you ate it, you may start to become aware of behaviors that trigger you to eat a bag of potato chips, and will help you make these little changes. And, over time, they really matter. It'll help you think in a different way. And the other thing too is, emotional support, right? Some people join a group. You may have family support, et cetera, et cetera. There are some reasonable strategies here on this slide that you can look at. Don't keep the food in the house, or like I talked about last week, if you want to have some chips, just take some out of the bag, put the bag away. And when the helping that you've given yourself, that small helping is gone, you're done. Portion sizes, try to stay away from vending machines. Don't go food shopping when you're hungry. There are lots of things. So take a look at that. Weight maintenance, accept weight maintenance as a lifelong endeavor. Don't say, I'm going on a diet. Say to yourself, I'm going to change my lifestyle, because that type of behavior is going to lead to weight loss. And it's going to actually help with binging. And that's another thing. People, I've been starving myself for 2 weeks. And then they go and eat, 3 Big Macs. Very counterproductive. There's some behaviors to maintain weight loss, right? People who lose weight and keep it off understand that they are in control. They have the ability to control their weight, and that's known as self-efficacy. I'm effective. They eat breakfast. You shouldn't skip breakfast. Your body needs something. Usually about an hour of physical activity of one type or another every day. monitor the weight once a week. Don't get on the scale every day. That's not going to give you an appropriate look at what your weight really is. Maintain those consistent eating patterns. If you do have a lapse, don't beat yourself up about it. Just say, all right, that's not going to happen again. And don't make a little problem turn into a big one. Don't sit and watch TV for more than 10 hours a week, right? Eat high fiber foods. Make sure you're drinking plenty of water, and water for a healthy average adult. You're going to love this. 2,500 to 3,500 milliliters a day for a healthy average adult human. A bottle of purified water, like a bottle of water, is about 500 milliliters. So 5 of them minimally. Are you drinking 5 bottles of water a day? If you're not, you need to start, right? And have realistic expectations. You know, stay away from Glamour magazine and Vogue magazine. And I want to look like her. Just look like you, but a healthier version of you. Okay, that's the way to do it. Here are more strategies for reasonable weight loss. And now we're going to talk about the opposite problem, being underweight. So the percentage is far less. Only 2% of the adults in this country are underweight. If you are healthy at your present weight, then there's no need to gain weight. In other words, if you're thin because that is your body type, but you're healthy, you're taking in adequate calories, you have enough nutrition, you're not deficient in anything, then you're fine. You don't need to gain weight. But if you're thin or skinny because of malnourishment or because you were ill, then you possibly would need to gain weight. When we're talking about gaining weight, again, it's the same thing, but kind of the opposite, right? We want to focus on your physical activity. What foods are you eating? I still would disagree with the 3 meals a day, because you should be eating small, frequent meals, larger portions, eat some snacks. Don't we wish this was advice that was given to us? And drink things, again, energy-dense foods are things like juice and milk, etc. Okay. Again, fad diets, they're a dime a dozen. There's so many out there. They're not safe. They're not effective. There's no research backing them. There's sometimes they have you starve yourself. Sometimes they have you eliminate one entire food group, like the keto diet. You can't eliminate carbs. Let me say that again. You cannot eliminate carbohydrates. You need them. So, oh, you know, if I eliminate carbs, my body's going to burn fat. And then you're going to go into ketoacidosis. Believe me, it's dangerous. And anything we guarantee you're going to lose the weight that you want in 2 weeks. They're lying. They're lying. Okay. Here are some tips to identifying what fad diets are. If it sounds too good to be true, right? It's too good to be true. If it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck, right? It's a duck. Anything, lose weight while you sleep, you know, 10 pounds in 2 days. Come on. We all know better than that, right? So anything that's too good to be true doesn't work. We spend billions with a B in this country on weight loss gimmicks and fads. They don't work, yet we keep doing it. And the answers are so simple. All right, that's it for chapter 7. So let me log out here. I'll say, see you with the next chapter. All right, guys. Bye.